There are 6 grand illusions that keep us in a cycle of confusion, of frustration, of anxiety. And of course, step one in overcoming these illusions is to bring our awareness over them. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you what exactly these 6 grand illusions are, how you can go ahead and implement the practices in your life to overcome them so that you can go on to the other side of overcoming the frustration, confusion, anxiety, and overwhelm as well. Okay? Thought I had something on my head. But the first grand illusion is that of the illusion of thought. Okay? And this is the illusion that makes us think that we are our thoughts. And when we get identified with our thoughts, then we are basically pulled this, that, and the other way by our drifting thoughts. Okay? So understand that the fact that you can observe your thoughts means that you are not your thoughts, okay? You cannot observe something that you are. For example, you can't see your own eyes because your eyes are the part of you that see, right? Even when you look in a mirror, you see the reflection of your eyes, which aren't really your eyes. So from a scientific standpoint, you are not your thoughts, okay? Vantage point is a prerequisite for observation. So in order to observe something, you have to, by its very definition, have to be outside of it, which means that that little voice that is talking in your head is literally your brain talking. It's not you. And the more we can get awareness of this illusion, the more we can grow a distance with our thoughts, the more we can have and choose the thoughts that we want to listen to, rather than just like be pulled this, that, and the other way, because our thoughts are always running in that loop, right? And this is why meditation has been such an important factor in my journey so far. And a lot of people are confused about meditation. They're like, it doesn't suit me. I get bored. Like, I have to do something else. But for me, like, I definitely have engaged in a lot of different meditation practices. But what I come back to again and again is that of simply listening to silence. So simply sitting in my place without any sound, without any music, without anything, and just observing my thoughts, watching them go by. And this practice for me really increases the distance between me and my thoughts, whereby I'm not identifying with them, and I can choose which ones serve me, which ones don't, and I can choose how to show up based on my most empowered response rather than reacting to the thoughts, which in themselves are probably a result of something I picked up from outside of me at the end of the day. All right, so this is really the ultimate dilemma, because this is really what the ego is. It's an attachment to thinking without awareness of the fact that you're not your thoughts. And then when you're stuck in that cycle, it's very hard to break out, because your thoughts are running a million miles an hour and you think that you are them, and therefore you get overwhelmed. But if you could just sit in your place and observe what is going on, that is when you are like literally defragmenting the hard drive of your brain. You're like you're closing down all the windows that are open, right? For example, on your computer, when you have a lot of windows open, it slows down. There's a lot of bandwidth being used up. So when you just sit in your place and observe your thoughts, it's like you're defragmenting that. You're allowing more space to open up for yourself, right? Now, the second grand illusion is that of the illusion of self. Because a lot of people are like, shit, if I'm not my thoughts, then who am I? Am I my body? Well, the reality is that if a characteristic that is associated with you changes, but you otherwise remain the same, then that characteristic is not you. Okay, so in your body, every single one of your body cells is going to change over the next 7 to 14 years. Like thousands of cells are dying every single second. And this is an illusion that I was brought to the awareness of when I took my first solo trip to Amsterdam, right? If you haven't heard the story, it was basically that I had planned a trip to go to Amsterdam with my cousin, who ended up bailing on me on the last second. And that left me in a dilemma, because at the time I identified as someone who was shy, who was introverted, who was afraid of talking to people, who couldn't travel on my own. But when I took that trip and decided to take that leap and travel by myself, I was basically able to experience a side of myself which I had never experienced before, because I ended up overcoming that illusion of being introverted, of shy, of being afraid to talk to people, because I was forced in a situation where I didn't know anyone, I didn't know anything, I didn't know any place. I talked to that first person, it was really hard for me. I talked to that second person, it was a bit easier. And by the end of the week, I had connected with more people in those 7 days than I had in my previous like 17 or 18 years at that point. And that is what opened my eyes to the illusion of the self, realizing that my identity is just a collection of stories that I told myself about my past. And if I change the story, I change who I am. My identity is completely malleable. And this is really so important because I think that identity is what holds a lot of people back from making progress in their lives. They cling to who they are, and therefore they are unable to express and experience who they can be, right? So even your identity is like a personal evolution that can take place. And like with all of these things, when we believe them to be true, we find evidence for those things as well. Okay, so if you have an awareness of these illusions, if you have an awareness that your identity can be like water and adjust and be malleable according to the environment that you're in, then you can open up and allow yourself to evolve and become more as a result of it. Okay, and the third grand illusion is that of the illusion of knowledge. As the great Stoic philosopher Epictetus says, you cannot learn that which you think you already know. And so many times we get attached to what we know and we cut ourselves off from what we can know. When I was like 17 or 18 years old, before I took the trip to Amsterdam, before I had my spiritual awakening, I thought that I know everything. I knew that I was on the path to becoming whatever it is, getting a professional job, working like whatever, however long it is. And just, I knew everything. I knew that this was the path, this is the path that I was going to follow. And all that is that I was ignorant of my own ignorance, right? So many people are in this situation where they don't even think about what they don't know because they're so attached to what they know right now or what they think they know is true right now. And all they do is verify everything that they encounter through the lens of what they already know. But as we engage in the process of self-growth, of expansion, of improving ourselves and reading and exposing ourselves to new ideas, then we realize that we don't even know anything, right? Because the more you know, the more you realize you have only glimpsed but the tip of the iceberg. Like Socrates said, the only thing I know is that I don't know. Confucius said that true knowledge is to know the extent of one's ignorance. And the more you learn, the more you engage in this personal development journey and becoming more and evolving, you realize that there's so much more to go, right? At the end of the day, this illusion is about making the decision in what you are more in love with, what you know or what you don't know. Because what you know is like just a tip of the iceberg, and what you don't know is like so much. And this illusion really holds us back from seeing that side of what we don't know because we're so attached to what we think that we know, and then we get caught in that cycle. And they say that ignorance is bliss, but is it really bliss? I think ignorance is the most expensive thing that will cost any of us in our lives, right? When you're making like $10,000 a month and you want to be making $100,000 a month, what's the gap? It's ignorance, because you don't know how to actually move towards that direction. And if you know, then you're not acting in it, your life is not in alignment with it, so then you don't really know how to get there, right? Because really ask yourself this question: do the ideas in your head reflect your reality? Because I've definitely exposed myself to so many deep ideas. So it's like, I know what to do, but my life right now is not exactly in reflection to that knowledge. My business right now is not exactly in reflection of the ideas that I have about business from what I've learned from my mentors and stuff like that. So obviously true knowledge, it comes from application, it comes from experience, it comes from implementation. It's not just information, okay? There's a difference between information and knowledge, right? Information is just like stuff that you can probably talk to someone else about, and knowledge is when you actually know something and you have that experience, real world feedback that amplifies it, right? So that is the illusion of knowledge. Now the fourth grand illusion is the illusion of time. Now this messes so many people up. It messed me up for a long time because we get identified with this mechanical time, which is a human construct, right? 4:20, it's 11:11, it's 4:44. We think that we're becoming spiritual because we look at these numbers, and I don't know what the case is with that, but the fact is that mechanical time is completely made up. It's something that we came up with to make things more convenient so that we could meet up with people in a more efficient way, right? But Einstein actually asserted that time is the fourth dimension, right? There's space-time, and time is actually the fourth dimension, whereby time always is, and it's us that are moving through time. So past, present, and future exist concurrently, and we are the ones that are moving through time. And that is why 20 minutes can feel like an hour to you, 20 minutes can feel like a minute for you, depending on how you feel during that moment, right? So the thing that most people don't understand about time is that it is a force multiplier, right? You do something right now, might not have a tremendous impact. You do it again and again and again and again and again. Like at the end of the year, if you just get 1% better, you're like 3,600% better, because time is like that compound effect where it's like, you know, even if you look at any like Warren Buffett's wealth, for example, he's like investing, he's like there, he's there, and then he finally like takes this rocket ship exponential growth, and that is the power of time, because it compounds your results, and then over time it's like shit, it's crazy. Like I said, if you get 1% better every single day, you're 3,600% better at the end of the year. On the flip side, if you get 1% worse every day, then you basically fall down to zero. And this is what most people don't understand. They're like, yo, I'll just go and do this bad habit right now, I'll just go eat this sugar right now, I'll just go play this video game right now, I'll watch this TV right now. But the more they do that habit, the more ingrained it gets into their reward system of the brain, the harder it becomes to break that habit. The more they do it, it compounds, and eventually it just becomes a part of who they are, which is why a lot of guys that I work with, they're like over 50 years old, they don't see results, because even though they have the information in their head, they know what they're supposed to do, they're so ingrained in their old patterns and old routines that it's just impossible for them to break out of it. And it's impossible because they think it's impossible, because they don't take the actions, they don't take the discipline to go ahead and do it. But if you have a lifetime of habits that have compounded over time, it's like glue, man. It's going to be very, very hard to break out of them. So sooner is always better than later, and understand that time is a force multiplier. And even though right now you don't experience the results, if you just carry on with that over time, it's going to be exponential at the end of it. Okay? Now, the fifth grand illusion is that of the illusion of control, right? So again, I'm going to go back to Stoicism, whereby the only things within your control are your thoughts and your behaviors. When we become too attached to controlling the outcome of our behaviors, talked about this in a previous video as well, it's the Eastern concept of detachment. When we get too attached to the results of our behavior, then we are going to be just experiencing anxiety, overwhelm, like so much negative emotion, because we are so attached to the outcome, which is outside of our control. And when we look at the Stoicism lens, there are things outside of your control, there are things in your control, and our focus, our mental bandwidth should only be put towards the things that are within our control, because that is our area of power. When we concern our mental bandwidth with things outside of our control, which is everything other than our own thoughts, our own behaviors, then we will be living in a world of anxiety, of overwhelm. So practicing detachment of the result and only focusing on the behavior, on the process right now, is really the key to ending that anxiety, that overwhelm. Obviously, it's easier said than done, and everyone goes through this, but awareness is the most important thing. When you can be aware of your intentions right now, are you acting with the desire to achieve a result? Are you acting knowing that this is the most important thing for you and the result is outside of your control? The way that you go into that action will be completely different, right? So that's the illusion of control. Understand that nothing is really under your control other than your own thoughts and your own behaviors, and everything that you focus on that isn't your own thoughts and your own behaviors is mental bandwidth that is being wasted towards things that are outside of your power of influence. Okay? Now, the sixth grand illusion is the illusion of fear. Okay? This emotion of fear that holds us back from taking the action, from getting ourselves out there, from starting the business, from talking to the girl, from doing the thing that is the right thing, that you know in your heart of hearts is the right thing, but you feel this fear, this discomfort because of it. We have to change our association with it, right? Fear is an indicator for you to do the right thing. It's like an indicator for where you want to go. It's an indicator for the area that will lead to your growth and development. But when we get attached to this illusion of fear that kept our ancestors alive, really, in today's day and age, it really keeps our lives small. It keeps our lives contracted, because we think that we're gonna die by talking to that girl that's attractive over there. But in reality, that's just an old program that has run its course. But when it takes control of you, then you are the victim of that program, and you hold yourself back from actually expanding, because you think that fear is keeping you safe. But really, it's keeping your life small. So understand that any time that you hold yourself back from doing something because you're scared of a certain outcome, then realize that it's just an illusion, because you're not going to die. you're not going to get banished from your tribe. You're not going to get excommunicated, right? That's what this fear comes from, because in our tribal days, when you did something against the norm, when you did something that was going to make the chief upset or something like that, you would get banished. And what does banishment mean? Well, in the previous environment, it basically meant death, right? So that fear is deeply engraved within us. The more we can overcome it, the more we come out on the other side of it, the more we realize that we are actually bigger versions of ourselves on the other side of fear. Okay? So those are the 6 grand illusions. Keep them in mind. Obviously, awareness is step number 1. And once you have an awareness of these illusions, you can then go ahead and act in alignment with the truth of who you are rather than succumbing to the illusion. Right? So I hope that this has been valuable for you. If it has, leave a comment below letting me know your number 1 takeaway from this video. What is the illusion that holds you back the most? And I'll do my best to help you out. Also, click a bunch of the buttons below if you want to see more videos from me. If you don't, click the dislike button. But if you watched it to this point, then what are you doing if you dislike me? You should have stopped watching a long time ago. But if you haven't subscribed already, click the subscribe button. And this has been Mo. I will see you in the next video.